Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Tokyo, Nagoya, Shinyokama, and Kyoto. Yes, we got three places for you today where it's always sunny because we are blazing through Japan on bullet trains.
Isn't that
My
four?
name is Patrick. Yeah, sure. Let's go. Yeah, I was too focused on the pronunciation and not the number.
Hi, I'm Lugia, and I'm looking for that goddamn suitcase with the train sticker on it. There better not be any
And,
diesels on board.
and I'm red.
That does beg the question. Which Thomas train are you?
That is a good question.
I'm
I
the
feel like I'm a
obese
Percy.
conductor.
I was gonna say Percy.
Yeah.
I am the obese conductor.
Sir Topham Hatt the Third. But anyway, yes, today we're talking about Bullet Train, and let's just jump right into it. So, Bullet Train is based on the novel Maria Beetle, which is actually the second novel in the Hitman series by Kotaro Isaka. And it consists of four books: The Grasshopper, Maria Beetle, The Mantis, and 777, which Grasshopper was also adapted into a movie. But no, we're talking about Bullet Train today, which, fun fact, according to my research, before it became a movie, it was adapted into a stage play. I was not able to find any further information on this, not even an image, but
Did it go by its
apparently it
original name?
was. Yes, it went by Maria Beetle. It was only in Japan, I believe, though. But yes, it's based on a book. It was co-produced by Antoine Fuqua, I think, the guy who directed Training Day.
Anton Fuqua, I think is
Yes,
yeah. But
yes. My
he
apologies.
didn't
I
direct
am
this.
I am
I'm
awful with
confused.
names.
What do you mean though?
I
He didn't direct
apologize.
this.
Yes. No, he. I said he was a co-producer.
Oh, okay.
No, directing was by David Leitch, who was a stuntman who later turned to directing. His credits include co-directing the first John Wick, and he was the sole director of Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and Hobbs and Shaw.
Did we ever talk about any of his movies? Because that name sounds familiar.
He
I have
also was
mentioned him, before, but I don't think we've
he
talked.
he was a producer on Nobody, which we talked about way back when.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe
and
that's where you remember the name.
he was a stuntman. I think one of the Matrix movies. I'm not sure if it's the one we
Yeah,
talked
he was.
about.
Fun fact: he for a while he was Brad Pitt's stunt double, which is interesting. I wonder how that must be. Directing the guy that you did stunts for way back when. But
Yeah,
anyway, some
definitely.
fun facts about Bullet Train is that so this movie features quite a cast and some unexpected cameos, but Leach wanted Keanu Reeves to make a cameo appearance as well as Ladybug's therapist, but this didn't end up happening. I have no idea why. And Lady Gaga was in talks to play a role in the film at one point, but she opted out to do House of Gucci instead. And it's speculated she was going to play Maria, the part that Sandra Bullock played, but this has never been confirmed. In fact, when David Leitch was asked about it, he said, "Yeah, I'm going to leave that a mystery." So we may never know who Lady Gaga was going to play officially.
My guess would either be Hornet or I think her name is Rhea, like the one that Ladybug's always
Cindy
talking to.
Bullock, yes. My guess is Maria. You have a guess, Red?
It's probably Maria. Yeah.
So, one other fun fact. Well, not really fun. Before the film released, it generated controversy due to accusations of whitewashing in the cast, as the roles played by Brad Pitt and Joey King were originally Japanese in the book. The author commented on this, saying he kind of didn't care. Bullet Train released in summer 2022, and against a budget of around 85.9. No, wait, no. Yeah, a budget of around 85.9 million to 90 million, it grossed 239 million, so pretty decent success. And while reviews were mixed by critics, audiences seem to be pretty favorable towards it. And that brings us to today, where we are talking about it. So, what is Bullet Train? Well, on paper, it sounds very simple. There are five assassins on a train, all with different objectives, but the main thing that binds them all together is that they're all trying to get a briefcase filled with a ton of money. On paper, simple, but in execution, there are so many twists and turns, action sequences, and characters, and just there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in this film. So, of the three of us, Lugia is the only one who hadn't seen it before. I want you to
Yes.
start.
Okay. So, like you said, I haven't seen this movie before, and I didn't know what to expect going into it. I thought it was very interesting how most, if not all, of the movie takes place on the train itself, and even when Brad Pitt's character tries to leave the train, he's still like yanked back in, partly due to his bad luck. So I like the setting. Like it's not very often where you get a lot of movies that take place in like just like a vehicle or like a stationary room. Now, going into this and seeing the whole setup, I thought that this movie was going to be like a last man standing situation with these five assassins trying to get the briefcase and like these other characters start coming in like the Wolf and Hornet and like they have ties to some of the other characters. That's not what it ended up being, but we can get into that a little bit later.
Did you like the movie? Did you think it was okay?
I I liked the first half. Again, like where
First
everything
half.
was a last man standing situation and everyone's killing each other. And then one of the characters, Lemon, wakes up and he had a bulletproof vest on. And then we find out that everything is orchestrated by the White Death. I felt like the movie started to lose a lot of steam by then because it shifted focus from we need to get this briefcase to we need to stop this guy who masterminded everything. I don't know
Mhm.
if like I'm the only one who thinks that, but like I thought what the movie had from the start was perfect, and then it sort of lost me by the end.
See.
I thought it was okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't like dislike it or anything. The best way I can describe this movie is that it felt like a Ryan Reynolds movie trying to be anime. And like obviously like Ryan Reynolds, didn't like star in it, but like it had like his kind of like sense of humor and kind of his style. I know David Leitch worked with him before with Deadpool and
This kind of feels like
um,
Knives Out just a little bit, but instead of a whodunit, it's
I don't know. I could tell it was directed by David Leitch just because it felt like Deadpool 2 and Hobbs and Shaw. It felt very similar to those to me. And I think I probably mentioned it, but I don't like those movies, which is why it kind of impressed me that I do like this a little. Like I don't love it, but I do think like ultimately I'm on the positive side, which is impressive because I really dislike Hobbs and Shaw, and I was always just kind of mixed on the Deadpool movies, but so I still want to say this isn't hilarious. Like I'm still pretty like on the comedy, but unlike Hobbs and Shaw, I think there's actual like good variety with the characters and they have contrast, and I like how they kind of bounce off each other. Like I'd say that's probably like one of the bigger strengths of the film is that the characters are actually all pretty distinct and they bounce off each other in kind of interesting ways. And unlike say Deadpool 2, they play like all their jokes straight and aren't repetitive with the humor. So yeah, I do think this kind of like is his best work so far. Not including John Wick, but John Wick is much more led by the other guy, clearly, just because the other guy directed the other four. Anyway, for anime comparisons, this really reminded me of Sakamoto Days, with all the assassins kind of killing each other and kind of has like a similar kind of sense of humor to it. So if you like this, read the Sakamoto Days manga. It also reminds me of Bakuno because the thing with Bakuno is that it's a bunch of people trying to solve this kind of like mystery on this train, and there's like a lot of like death and like action and stuff. Again, this kind of does remind me of an anime. It's got kind of a live action anime feel, which makes sense because it was written by a Japanese guy. I do think that the other two I mentioned are a bit better, but I don't think it quite nails the tone that I think like anime is able to balance. But like you can tell it was based off of Japanese source material. There's like an earnestness here that I don't think is in Leech's previous work, which guess is what kind of warmed me up to it. I don't feel like the characters are aware they're in a movie and constantly have like one foot out the door, which is what I did feel with his other films. Obviously Deadpool literally is aware he's in the movie, but like with Hobbs and Shaw, I just kind of felt like cartoonish. Like I know I'm saying oh it feels cartoonish, but like I like it because it feels like an anime, but like I don't know, it's hard to describe. Also, it reminds me a lot of like Guy Ritchie and Matthew Vaughn's films, and more in a good way though, because I while I'm mixed on them too, I do like still I also like them. So yeah, I don't think the filmmaking is as good as Guy Ritchie or Matthew Vaughn. Guy Ritchie especially, he's much more skilled, but I do think It's very competent here. It's got some decent flash to it. Basically, I think like if you enjoy this, like watch the movie, and if like after like a half hour you don't really think anything was funny, then you probably won't like it. Like I think like this lives and dies on how much you can, if you either like or can tolerate the humor. If you can't, you're probably gonna hate it. It kind of reminds me of like Birds of Prey in that way, where like I feel like I would have liked Birds of Prey if it was like if the humor didn't grate on me, but the humor did grate on me, so ultimately like I just thought Birds of Prey was okay.
So Patrick, you saw this movie before and you really liked it, correct?
I did.
Did anything
I
change?
So I saw this movie in theaters. I saw it twice. And this is the first time I've seen it since then. I'll admit it didn't quite click with me as much as when I first saw it, but I still did really like it. I will admit I'm kind of in a similar boat as you guys where I do agree it does kind of lose some steam by the end. But I think what really elevates this for me is that I just really enjoy the characters. Each of them, like we said, each of them is very distinct. They each have their own quirks. I thought the performances were great. Like I knew you guys were more mixed on it, but I don't know. There were some really real standout moments. Like I loved the running joke of how Lemon always compares people to like Thomas characters. Like that got a laugh every time. And I think my favorite joke is at the very end with the water bottle,
I I
where they
wanted to
build
like
up
the
the
water
water.
bottle bit, but it was
You
like
wanted to?
I wanted to like it, but it got to a point in the movie where again, this was in the second half and I was really worn out by all the White Death stuff. And as soon as I saw the water bottle get an intro, I'm like, "Oh, okay." I kind of wish, like, for me, if they wanted to make that joke work, they probably should have done it at the intro. Like, establish that it's probably going to be important later on, as opposed to, like, hey, we got one more intro and it's for a water bottle, baby. Look how it got here. I don't know. That's just me, though.
I don't know. I got a good laugh out of it.
All
Just
right,
going
so
back for a second, you said this reminded you. What directing style did you say this reminded you of, Red?
Guy Ritchie and Matthew Vaughn.
I got vibes of like an Edgar Wright movie. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, I kind of
I mean
see
that's
it.
fair. I mean
It does have that like kind of fastness and
the
even some
other
of the
two guys I
humor.
mentioned, the other two guys I mentioned are also kind of similar to Edgar Wright. They're all like kind of British, Tarantino like inspired people. Matthew Vaughn directed the Kingsman movies and Kick Ass. So like I don't know if you've seen the Kingsman movies, but like that's what I'm saying. It reminds me of. It reminds me of the Kingsman movies.
I have not.
But going back to the characters, you mentioned Lemon. I really liked
Mhm.
Ladybug in this. Brad Pitt, from what I've seen, he's always a great actor in Burn After Reading and Inglorious Bastards, and even here, like he
And
plays
Fight Club.
this that too, Fight Club, yeah.
I just mentioned Fight Club because that's one of the movies David Leitch did stunts for him.
But then there's Prince, and kudos to the actress. She does a really good job at making me hate her.
Is that a Joey King? Is that the little girl?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And like there are so many points where she's almost going to die, and then she somehow gets the upper hand. It's like, oh, you love to hate her, but when she actually does die at the end, it's just by getting run over by a truck. I
That
don't.
was kind of
I
funny.
felt like that was kind of anticlimactic.
That was kind of funny, like how anticlimactic it was, so it didn't really bother me. But yeah, no, I get you. What'd you guys think of the action? Since we mentioned the directing style, what'd you actually think of the fighting and whatnot?
I thought it was good all around. Again, the second half of the movie is sort of like filled with action, whereas with the first half, there's like very brief fight scenes every now and then. Also, how come there are passengers on board? How is no one alerted by the fact that people are bleeding, people are fighting, clearly within visible range, and they just don't care?
I don't know. But that does remind me. One of my favorite scenes is when they're fighting in the quiet car.
And the old lady's like trying to shush them.
Yes, yes, and the background music is just like this really like relaxing flute piece. I'm gonna call BS on something though. So let's talk about the Hornet for a second. Why wouldn't she have already injected herself with the antidote before going on a mission to poison somebody? Like, I know she had the needle already, but why wouldn't she do it beforehand just in case? Like, I get that's kind of the joke, but
Well, we don't know how long the antidote lasts.
I don't know. Brad Pitt got bit by a snake after he injected the antidote, and he was fine. So
You could also chalk that up to his luck.
I don't think we talked about the, I guess, individual performances that much. I guess what'd you think of like Zazie Beetz as the Hornet? What'd you think of her?
She
Even though
was
she's only on screen for like 3 minutes, I thought she was pretty memorable.
Yeah, she was definitely
Yeah,
She says
good. I just wish that we got to
she
see
says
more of
bitch
her.
in like every sentence, so that's something.
like I get that's sort of my question. I guess like what'd you think of like the smaller parts? Like what'd you think of the Ryan Reynolds cameo?
He doesn't get a single line, but
Have you guys seen Deadpool 2?
No.
yes, I have.
It reminds me of like the Brad Pitt cameo in Deadpool 2.
I saw Deadpool 2 once. I don't.
Okay, so you know the invisible guy that you
Yeah.
don't see or hear except when he gets electrocuted to death? Yeah, Brad Pitt's
Oh, right now, yes, now I remember. Now I remember. Yeah.
you see him for like 2 seconds. It was like I don't know, I just thought it was kind of funny. It was like, oh, it's like a similar deal here where like they were both in each other's movies and they're like only there for a few seconds. And also, I guess that's something interesting I want to mention. So I mentioned how this feels like a Ryan Reynolds movie. So like, and yeah, like the fact that like the plot is literally a guy subbing in for Ryan Reynolds in his movie. Like that's exactly what I felt the film was. Like I felt like I saw someone sub in for Ryan Reynolds. So
And you were
yeah.
right.
Yeah, so like when the actual ending happened, I was like, oh my god, I was that's actually what happened. That's the actual plot line. Like, never mind. This is actually like a secretly genius. Like I changed my tune like immediately. I was like, never mind. This is actually kind of good. No, I mean like I did thought it was good, but like I immediately was like that issue I had with it. It kind of like went away when I kind of realized that was kind of the bit, and I was like, oh okay, it's kind of like it's actually kind of clever then.
That was funny. The Channing Tatum cameo was also pretty funny.
What was this cameo again?
His cameo was, "Hey, you want to make an easy $200?" And he's like, "Is this something sex related?"
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That made me laugh because of the awkward silence. Ladybug doesn't immediately go, "What? No, no, no." He just goes,
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I don't know why, but I also enjoyed the scene, a couple scenes that Brad Pitt was in. Like the one where he was hiding in the restroom and he was just playing around with the toilet, like with the settings on the toilet. And the other scene where him and Tangerine are fighting and they end up in a restocking area on the train, and then the stewardess comes in, so they stop fighting. She restocks more snacks, and then Ladybug asks for a bottle of water. He can't pay for it, so Tangerine's like, "All right, I'll give you some money here."
Another scene I love is the montage of Lemon and Tangerine and how many people they killed rescuing
Yeah.
the sun. Like, wait, was it 16 or 17? Oh, right, there was that innocent civilian in the explosion. That wasn't our fault. What would Thomas the Tank Engine do? Take responsibility. Also, I get a feeling this movie was sponsored by the Find My Phone app. Because at one point they plug it like, yeah, this thing is surprisingly accurate.
Well, that's how Tangerine finds Ladybug in the
I know,
restroom.
I know. It's an actual plot point, but it made me laugh because later he's like, wow, no kidding.
All right. You guys got any more last thoughts?
We've neglected one of the characters,
Which one?
Father. What did you think of him?
This is interesting. Cause he's sporadically appeared in the beginning of the movie. But like he's prominent throughout the end. He kind of felt like his appearance at the end kind of felt like it was built up as a much bigger deal than
No,
it
no, no.
ended
You're
up
referring to the
feeling like.
elder. I'm talking about the father, the guy who's trying to save his
Oh, the
son.
father. Right. Yes. 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 Sorry. Did you have an opinion?
Not really. I mean, they kind of build him up as the main character, but that's not really the case. That ends up being Ladybug, especially by the end.
Of all the characters, I think he's probably the one I have the least opinion on. He's not bad, but he's just
Yeah,
kind
he
of
just gets toyed around by
there.
Prince. But you were gonna talk about Elder.
Older, yeah. So at the end, he has like this big monologue about how he was a part of basically the mob that was taken over by the White Death, and how he's been wanting revenge all these years. His inclusion at the end and like the way he told the speech, it felt like he was built up much bigger than he ended up being. I don't know. Did you guys feel that?
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough.
I have one more thing to say.
Go ahead.
Tangerine and Lemon spinoff immediately.
That might actually happen.
I would love that. Even if it's like a TV show or something. I love their chemistry.
Just like all of the hits
Like
they've been doing.
it's a fun kind
Maybe with all
of
Yeah.
the 17 people they've
solid
killed.
buddy cop thing.
All around, it was good. Again, I really did enjoy that first half, but the second half, this train kind of lost some steam by the end. And I felt like there was something missing to connect the first half and the second half.
It's fair enough. I mean, that does seem to be the general consensus.
It does. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't actually like look up what anyone else thought about this film. I just kind of
Damn, are you telling me I'm normal?
My God, that's the worst
perhaps
thing that could happen to somebody.
you're a normie.
Ugh.
Fuck.
You're no longer an alpha gamer. You're a normie.
But I guess to wrap up, I still really like this movie. It's not perfect by any means, and again, I get it does kind of lose some steam, but I enjoy the characters enough. I enjoy the humor enough. It's got enough style in it. I can recommend this one. I have a good time.
Yeah, I'd give it a thumbs up. I do think that like most of the things that reminded me of, I do like more, but this is a fun time. You know, if you ever have like a lazy Sunday or something, it's good to put on.
So if you like this film, my recommendation is Edgar Wright. Scott Pilgrim mainly came to mind because it always goes back to Scott Pilgrim here.
I'd really recommend Guy Ritchie's crime films like Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels because they're these kind of windy things with like a lot of characters. And it's got like a very similar, very snappy style. I'd also recommend the Kingsman movies by Matthew Vaughn just because it's got kind of like similar sense of humor and it's got this kind of an
Any
action.
recommendations from you, Luke?
I guess Knives Out, especially because that's what the first half reminded me of.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and also again like the anime I mentioned, Baccano and Sakamoto Days. Sakamoto Days for the action and humor. Baccano because it's just kind of like a similar kind of story. If you like the idea of like this kind of mystery on a train with like action and stuff, you know, this fits. I guess Murder on the Orient Express too, but I don't know if those movies are good. I haven't seen the movie versions. I've only read the book, so I can't vouch for the films. But yeah,
Is the book good?
yeah, it's one of the greatest mystery novels of all time. It's Agatha Christie. It's basically Agatha Christie's like opus. It's like her most famous book from her most famous
Well,
series.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Agatha Christie. I never read Agatha Christie in school.
Okay, well, I never read it in school either. Like Agatha Christie's like she's like Arthur Conan Doyle. Where like she's like a book for like regular
Okay,
people.
okay. Murder on the Orient is a masterpiece. I get it. I get it.
No, but
Which
it's
is
like
what
a
we're
masterpiece
watching
like the
next
same way
week.
like no, it's like a masterpiece in the same way like a good Sherlock Holmes mystery is like a masterpiece. You know, like she's got that kind of similar vibe. Like her and Hercule Poirot and Sherlock Holmes are kind of like they're similar kind of detectives. Like they're held in similar esteem. Sherlock is obviously a bit more popular, but yeah. Anyway,
Your
we have
turn.
not. Yes, so we have not talked about an anime in a while. I believe.
Are we doing
I've
another
actually like
Fooly Cooly situation?
no. I don't mean like I'm probably not gonna recommend anime series. I just meant like anime in like general. Um,
Okay.
but I guess I'm struggling coming up with stuff that I want to actually like recommend. So here's the thing. So I'm going through this list. So the first anime we ever saw was Ghost in the Shell, Mamoru Oshii. Then we saw Tokyo Godfathers by Satoshi Kon. Then we saw The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Then we saw Fooly Cooly. I mean, we also saw the Pokemon movie, but we saw Fooly Cooly and we saw Spring and Chaos. So I feel like almost every like anime thing we've gone through was like from some significant kind of director in the medium because like Mamoru Oshii, he's one of the most important ones. Tokyo Godfathers, Satoshi Kon, one of the most important ones. Tale of Princess Kaguya, Fooly Cooly, like they're all very significant. So I guess I got two ideas for directors we can explore next week. And I guess the question is one is from the same studio that made Fooly Cooly, and one is from the same studio that made Tale of Princess Kaguya. So
Question for the Fooly Cooly related one. Is it as crazy as Fooly Cooly?
it is nothing like Fooly Cooly. That's kind of the funny thing. Like
Uh-huh.
honestly, like you're gonna watch it and you're gonna like this was seriously made by like the same people, and I'm gonna be like, technically was. Like you'll probably be very surprised by how low key this film was. Um,
So is it just off of studio name or are you gonna tell us what the titles are?
it's just off a studio name because I feel like if I say the titles, that might like bias you because one of them
Uh-huh.
isn't well known, but one of them is well known. Like among normies, they're both well known among anime fans, but only one is like well known among like regular people.
It's the Studio Ghibli one, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously.
That's
Okay.
probably what I was gonna go for.
Okay, actually, let me give
Well,
you some details. So both of them are about building vehicles
I think I know where this is going. Yeah,
It's not. It's
I'm
not like
going for the Studio Ghibli one.
okay.
I don't know where it's going, and a part of me does want to lean towards Studio Ghibli, but at the same time, I'm curious about the contrast because I had no idea what the fuck Fooly Cooley was.
Yeah. Here's an
So,
actual interesting thing. So to bury the lead, it is a Miyazaki movie, but here's the thing: Miyazaki also worked on Royal Space Force. I just revealed the title of the obscure one. Fuck. Okay, Miyazaki worked on both of them, so if you're like just basing it off of I want to see a Miyazaki movie, don't worry, you're gonna get both. One was directed by one had worked had like Miyazaki work on it a little bit and was had his proteges work on it a lot, and the other one was directed by him. So either works. I generally like don't care which one you pick, but I'm just gonna
I'll
give
take
more
one for the
details.
team. Yes. All right, let's go with the Studio Ghibli one.
Okay, so I guess next week we'll be watching Porco Rosso.
Oh, this is
Ah,
not what I thought it
okay.
would be. Okay.
Actually, would you guys mind watching both just because they're really short, both of them. They're not like long films.
How long are they?
Porco Rosso is only like I mean they're animated movies, so like Porco Rosso is only 90 minutes. It's an hour and a half, like shortest a movie can be. And Royal Space Force, Wings of Hohenheim is 2 hours. So they're both pretty short.
I don't mind.
I was really struggling trying to decide. It was, it was genuinely like I was like, fuck.
I'm gonna be
Um,
honest. I don't think I have time this week for a
all
double
right.
feature.
In that case, I did have like a different Studio Ghibli movie I was thinking we can recommend. That's like, okay, so I guess change of plans, Princess Mononoke.
Like, for real?
Yeah, Princess
Okay.
Mononoke. I changed my mind. Princess
Okay.
Mononoke.
I saw this one pretty recently too, but yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Eh,
It's just
all right, yes.
you know how I operate. I'm either gonna pick like the movie that the famous director made that no one knows about, or their most famous work. And like technically, Spirited Away is their most famous work, but I think Princess Mononoke is like their second most famous,
It's
and
up there.
it's like the one that interests me the most because like yeah, I guess that's the thing with Princess Mononoke. Like one of his most famous works, but it's also very atypical from him because he's known for doing like this kind of like wholesome like stuff like he got to start doing like adventure stuff like Lupin the Third, which Porco Rosso is very similar to actually. And then he got his like big name because of My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, which are like wholesome family films. Princess Mononoke is neither of those. It's not an Indiana Jones type thing, and it's not. It's like a war film about like with really high like epic
Yeah,
stakes. It's like his Lord of the
it's
Rings.
surprisingly violent too.
Like Princess Mononoke is considered his follow up to Nausicaa, and Nausicaa is like his take on Dune.
Finally getting to Hayao Miyazaki.
I was like looking at like other stuff I want to recommend. It was like I recommended like a lot of 60s and 70s stuff lately, so I think I'm gonna stop recommending stuff from that. So I was like, oh, an anime, cool. Because I think like yeah, because The Godfather 70s, Barry Lyndon's the 70s, Great Silence is the late 60s, but it was after New Hollywood, so it was basically the 70s. But yeah, I don't know, any closers?
It was time for the Always Sunny trio to leave. They had seen everything.